Yo, what's up, nerds? It's MTG, man. I'm gonna be looking at some Outlaws Thunder Junction spoilers. I'm actually pretty excited for this set. It's doing something different. We're looking at, a new type of plane. Like, Innistrad was the real first gothic horror plane. This is the first Western plane, which seems a little strange, but, that's fine. I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm gonna look over some of the cards I think are interesting. Starting with Brimstone Roundup. So whenever you cast your second spell each turn and create a 1/1 mercenary, mercenaries have you can tap them to give target creature +1/+0 until end of turn, and you can plot this. So you pay 2 in a red, exile it from your hand, cast it as a sorcery on a later date without or on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Um, Maybe there's something I'm missing about plotting. Maybe other cards will benefit when you plot, but it doesn't really make sense to plot this because it's just cheap as is. I don't know. I think in a cantrippy type deck, this could be pretty cool. But I'm not really too sure about it. I think it would be better as a comp. I think if this was a option for like a pauper cantrip deck, where you're just you cast consider, you cast opt. That's your 2 spells for turn. You get an outlaw, and you just build up this board of outlaws. I think that could be a cool type of deck. But that's just me. Requisition raid. I could see this being somewhat of a staple in maybe not Commander, but I could see it having some sort of play. So it's 1, and then you pay another 1 for each of the effects you want to do, including destroying an artifact, destroying an enchantment. So right there, you just have a better, like, naturalized type effect because, A, you could just pay the 1 and you could pay 2 and destroy 1. You can pay 3 to destroy both, or you can pay 4 and put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So like you get to choose what you need this spell to do. I think that's really strong. Uh Gyrrid, Mirror of the Wilds. Non-token creatures you have tap, create a token that's a copy of target token you control that entered the battlefield this turn. This is strange. However, I think there are some interesting things you could do with this. Um, I think you could get like if you copy something with Kiki Jiki, I don't know if you would have to sacrifice the other tokens that you would create by tapping other creatures. I'm not entirely sure how this would work, but I think it could be relatively strong, even if it's just creating like treasures or something. Um, that's just me. Tai Joaquin Perfect Shot. Whenever a source you control deals non combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. And then X, if a source you control would deal non combat damage to a creature or player, it deals that much damage plus X. So I think that would be better if you didn't have to tap her. I think that kind of hurts her. Um, when you hit something with a bolt, if it deals exactly 3 and it has exactly 3 toughness, then you get to draw. I think that could be good. It's just like a little bit too specific. Railway Brawler, when another creature enters, put X +1/+1 counters on it where X is its power. So it just doubles the power and toughness of like. Okay, that's pretty good, I guess. Um, and plotting it, you could pay 4 on your turn 4 and then cast it for free turn 5. That's cool. Just 1 mana cheaper. Take a Ride. So it's 2 in a red. Has flash if you've committed a crime, and you gain control of target creature until end of turn. Okay, that's cool. So you could steal your opponent's creatures before they attack, things like that. Definitely cool. Um, yeah, I think that's probably just better. I mean, it's definitely better than like active aggression or treason or whatever other effect. Pillage the Bog. So you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is twice the number of lands you control. Put 1 of them in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Again, I don't understand why you would plot this unless there's some sort of combo type thing. So this is kind of like a tutor or like just a super impulse, I guess. That's kind of cool. There is in Magic Arena, there's assemble the team or something, assemble the squad, where you look at the top third of your library and choose a card. And that's actually a pretty solid card. So it could work. It could be a budget alternative to a tutor. And I could see it having some like standard play because again, it's just finding a solid card. Magebane Lizard. When a player casts a non-creature spell, Magebane Lizard deals damage to that player equal to the number of non-creature spells they've cast this turn. I like this. This is going in Solfim probably for me. I think it's pretty creative. I think that's cool. I think there's what Rug of Smothering does something similar, and that's in the one D&D set. And that's a pretty fun card. So at least fun for me. Um, so yeah, that's cool. Gold Pan. So I guess this is kind of like Gilded Pinions. It just enters, you create a treasure, and then it's like a standard artifact or equipment. Nothing really special here. I don't know why a gold pan is giving you +1/+1. If anything, I would give it the what's the one sword ability where when it deals damage you create a treasure? Or is that Thieves' Tools? Something like that. Because I feel like it would make more sense for it to consistently be creating you more treasure. And if you can cast Sticky Fingers for 1 red mana and create a treasure whenever you deal combat damage, I think this will be fine. Um, Assimilation Aegis. So when it enters, it looks a lot like it should be legendary. I'm just saying, it looks pretty important. I like legendary equipment. I think they're cool. I think legendary artifacts. I think legendary creatures get too much of a spotlight because I feel like there's a lot of important things and uh, creatures and well, not creatures, but like artifacts, spells, whatever that could be legendary. So when it enters, you exile up to 1 target creature until it leaves the battlefield. When it becomes attached to a creature for as long as it remains attached to it, that creature becomes a copy of a creature exiled with Assimilation Aegis. That's, I guess that could be really good in formats like Modern with things like Shieldred being a big problem. Having your own Shieldred is going to counter out your opponent's Shieldred, and getting rid of their Shieldred with Assimilation Aegis is pretty good. And the equip cost of 2 is fairly low, so I could see it definitely having some play. Tumbleweed Rising. 1 in a green, create an XX green elemental creature token where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. This one, I think plot could be something interesting here. So, it's a comment. I could see there being a pauper deck that uses, like, you'd plot this on 1 turn, and then you'd pump up your creature with, like, the giant growths and growth cycle or whatever. Muscle Burst. I like Muscle Burst. I think Muscle Burst would be a cool deck. But anyway, you pump up a creature a whole bunch with that, and then since you plot Tumbleweed Rising on another turn, then you just have a free, like, 8/8, 9/9. I think that could be really cool for Pauper. I don't see it really having play outside of that, though. Patient Naturalist, when it enters, you mill 3, put a land from among them into your hand. If you can't create a treasure token, getting a treasure back is good. And, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just don't see it having any real play. Um, Bristlepack Sentry. So it's another one of those. I think there was a dinosaur that did it in like Core Set 21, where you have to have a creature of power 4 or greater in order for it to attack. Otherwise, as defender, it's fine. Like it could be a good wall in like draft, but I don't really see it having much play outside of draft. Mine Raider, when it enters the battlefield, if you control another outlaw, create a treasure token, and outlaws are assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. I I kind of hate when they do that. Um I can't remember what other types they had banded together before, but like having to now well at least it has reminder text of what an outlaw is. That's good. Creating a treasure is fine, but nothing really too special about it. Reckless Lackey, a 1/2 first strike haste sacrifice it, draw a card, create a treasure. This is pretty good for a fast attacker. Um, Definitely, like it's not Swift Spear levels of good, but being able to draw a card when you don't need it is pretty good. And First Strike and Haste are always going to be solid, so I could definitely see it having um, some draft play. Hellspur Posse Boss. I'm really hoping there's going to be a commander for Outlaws then, if they're banding them together, because it would seem weird to just have like, oh yes, I now have a couple rogues in my pirate deck because they all count as outlaws or something like that. When it enters, you create 2/1/1 red mercenaries, and then all outlaws have haste. So that's pretty cool. So you can use the mercenaries to bump him up to a 4/4 or something else. Not really anything special there. Haste is always going to be good, but I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary. Discerning Peddler, being able to discard and draw every attack. Oh, it enters the battlefield. That's not terrible, I guess. I I don't really have too much experience on how good that would be, though. Raven of Fell Omens. Whenever you commit a crime, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain. It's it's cool, but the ability only triggers once each turn really hurts it. Um, if there was a way that crimes only counted once per spell, that'd be cool. Like, for example, if I cast Arc Lightning targeting 3 creatures, that counts as 3 crimes. However, if you made it only 1 crime per spell, and that only counted as 1 crime, and then you got rid of the triggers only once each turn, then I think it could be balanced. I think that's what they're worried about. They're worried about you casting like Curse of Swine or whatever it is that turns X creatures into 2/2 boars. They're worried you're gonna cast that and then commit like 8 crimes and each opponent loses 8 life. Even then, I think it would be pretty balanced at that point. I don't see this being as much of a problem as I think it is. And I think the only once each turn thing is really killing it. Um, Black Snag Buzzard. So it enters with a +1/+1 if a creature died. I guess you can kind of guarantee that I it's okay. I guess being able to plot it for 2 makes it better, but it's still not great. Slick Shot Vault Buster gets +2/+0 as long as you've committed a crime. Boring. Whenever one or more creatures you control die, put a kind of boring. Is this a reprint? I swear we've seen Vengeful Townfolk before. Street Clear deals 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Steer Clear deals 4 damage to that creature if you control a mount as you cast the spell. I'm not sure about mounts, but dealing 4 damage for 1 white could be pretty good. Ariad's Lullaby, destroying a tap creature, kind of basic, doesn't matter. There's one that exiles a tapped creature for 1 and a white, so that's not even like it's that special. Create X 2/1 green varmint creature tokens, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. It's a cool ability. Varmints aren't squirrels, which will, like, unless there's more varmint linked abilities, it kind of just sets it off by itself. However, this could be a pretty good way to, like, flood the board. I do wish this was a common. I think this could be really cool in Pauper. But being able to plot it for 3 mana really isn't that bad either. So if you have a dedicated mill deck, it could be worth it. Shackle Slinger. When you cast your second spell each turn, choose target creature an opponent controls. If it's tapped, put a stun counter on it, otherwise tap it. If it was... The fact that it has to be tapped already does suck. I guess it's kind of like, oh, well, it already attacked you, so it already committed a crime, so then you'll be able to stun it. Like, it's not great. Stingerback Terror. So it's a Scorpion Dragon, that's pretty cool. Art's pretty sick. You can plot it for 3 mana, which is pretty good. And it's a 7/7, gets -1/-1 for each card in hand. I see this in a similar-ish way to Death Shadow, except Death Shadow costs 1, so it's a lot easier to deal with. And you generally, like, life only matters so much. But cards in hand will almost always matter, so I don't really see this having much play. Slick Sequence deals 2 damage to another target. If you cast another spell this turn, draw a card. Could be cool, but I think it just, if it was deals 2 damage and draw a card, then that's just Electrolyze, which is 1 more mana. So, like, I don't see it. Rustler Rampage, untap all creatures target player controls, target creature gains double strike. Both are pretty good, like, solid. For 2 mana, I think that's fine. Forsaken Miner, can't block. When you commit a crime, you can pay black. If you do, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. I don't know. I don't wait, this no, it doesn't go well, yeah. Okay, so this goes infinite with Goblin Bombardment and Pitiless Plunder because I think I don't quote me on that because couldn't you? So you sacrifice it to Goblin Bombardment to deal the 1 damage, and then because you've committed a crime, I think because you sacrificed it as the cost, it should already be in the graveyard. The 1 damage being targeted will count as a crime. I think you get it back, and because Pitiless Plunder knows to creature dying, you should get a treasure you could crack for black mana. So I guess it goes infinite. I don't quote me on that. I think I need to reread Goblin Bombardment. Djinn of Fool's Fall, pretty boring. Dance of the Tumbleweeds. Ooh, I like this. I like this a lot. I think this could be cool in Pauper. So 1 in a black, sorry, 1 in a green. You can either pay 1 and search your library for a basic land or desert and put it in the battlefield, then shuffle, or you pay 5 total and create an XX where X is the number of lands you control. I don't think we have anything like that in Pauper, so like a Pauper lands matter deck could be pretty cool with Dance of the Tumbleweeds. Um, and again, I'm not saying it would be good. I just think it would be cool. I like to look at decks that people aren't really playing Pauper wise. Erasable Wolverine. So it enters, you exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You can play that. I don't know. I guess the plot ability is so you could pay 3 on 1 turn and then have access to another card on another turn with its ability. That's pretty cool, I guess. Its ability, I think, would be a lot less valuable without plot. I think this is one of those times where plot is good. Boneyard Desecrator, 4 mana, 3/4 menace. When you can sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 count on it. If an outlaw was sacrificed, create a treasure. It's fine. I don't think there's really anything special there. Bespawn Outcast, or enters the battlefield. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. So it's a 2 mana 3/3, so that's pretty solid. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Intrepid Stable Master, basic mana dork, but you can get 2 mana if you cast a mount or a vehicle with its mana. So that's fine, I think. Unfortunately, vehicles kind of seem to be like a not green thing, but maybe mounts are green, so couldn't tell you anything about these cards. Nimble Brigand looks kind of boring. Smuggler's Surprise. So why is the Trojan horse in a like I don't get that. I'm a little confused, but so you can pay 3 to mill 4 and put up to 2 creature lands from among the milled ones into your hand. You can pay 6 to put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. That's pretty good, actually. That could see some play in different formats. Cheating things out will always be good. And then 2, you can pay 2 to give creatures you control with power 4 or greater, hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. All are pretty valuable. I could definitely see it having some commander play, but I'm not too sure outside of that. Hellspur Brute, affinity for Outlaws. It's a 5/4 trample. That's cool. I like affinity in concept. And I'm not really sure how good Outlaws are gonna be, so I don't know. Shoot the sheriff, 1 in a black. Destroy target non-outlaw creature. So, I think there's a real debate here between this and Go for the Throat about which is better. Because Go for the Throat doesn't hit artifact creatures, and this doesn't hit assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. So there's only so many of those that you want to kill anyway. So I think that's really interesting. Like, if you're building a budget commander deck and you have the choice, Go for the Throat or Shoot the Sheriff, which are you going for? Terror of the Peaks, great reprint, sick art. That's really cool, but it doesn't look like it really fits in with the set, so I don't know how I feel about that. Outcast, Trailblazer, enters, you add 1 mana of any color, you can plot it. Whenever another creature with power 4... Oh! So it's, what's that card? There's a card where, is it Elemental Bond? Yeah, this is really good. This is going to see a lot of play in green commander decks. Resilient Roadrunner has haste, protection from coyotes. That's pretty funny. Can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. I like this card a lot, but it could be good in like draft, because a 2/2 haste creature is never going to be bad in draft, as far as I know. Rambling Possum attacks while its saddle gets +1/+2 until end of turn. Then you can return any number of creatures that saddled it this turn to their owner's hand. To saddle, tap any number of creatures with total power 1 or more. This amount becomes saddled. So it's like it's a vehicle that is always a creature, but can become a stronger creature when you accrue it, I guess. That's pretty cool. Possum's cute. Shifting Grift. Okay. So you can exchange control of 2 target creatures, 2 target artifacts, or 2 target enchantments. I think this will be really fun in Commander. A lot of times your opponents, because their decks play so differently, you can give them, different cards, and they have no use for them. So it almost acts as removal. I don't think this is going to be good anywhere else, except maybe the exchange control of 2 target creatures. Well, then again, you could, take your opponent's 1 ring and, swap it with a Chromatic Star. I think this could be good. I think destroying things is usually just better, though. 3 steps ahead, so it's either a 3-mana counterspell, a 4-mana clone, or a 3-mana draw 2, discard 1. Not really great. I mean, Archmage's Charm is good, and it's similar cost, can counter spells, can create... it doesn't create tokens, it steals artifacts. Or it draws you 3 cards, and drawing 3 cards is always going to be better than draw 2, discard 1. I guess the fact you can do multiple is good. It definitely has potential because it gives you so many options, but I wouldn't play it. Binding Negotiation. Target opponent reveals a card. If you may choose a non-land card. If you do, discard it. Otherwise, you may put a face-up exiled card they own into their graveyard. Oh, so if they have a plot, you can, get rid of their plot or something. Okay, cool. Can't read it. Well, can I read it? A chaque fois qu'il est destroyer sacrifique attack. So whenever it attacks, you create a 3/3 angel. I think you create a 3/3 angel, and it has haste. I'm assuming haste. Initiative. Is that haste? And Landivy. Fuck. I took 3 years of French. Don't fail me now. So therefore, engagé en portes quel nombre. Oh, it's got saddle 4. Okay, so it's got saddle 4. When it attacks, you create a 3/3. It's either vigilance or haste. Vigilance almost seems more and Landivy. I could not tell you. V. It's not. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Malcolm the Eyes. When you cast your second spell, each turn investigate. That's pretty cool. I think investigating and clues are getting more, like, powerful, but they're still not really that great. Prosperity Tycoon. When it enters, create a 1/1 mercenary, sacrifice a token, it gains indestructible. That's fine. Bristly Bill, Spine Sower, Landfall, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. 3 green green, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. That's really good. On each creature you control is kind of nuts. And it's putting. I like this card a lot. I could see myself building a commander deck around it. Um, this is a good card. I'm just gonna say that now. I think that's good. Vadmir New Blood. Vadmir. They just took Vladimir, like Vlad the Impaler, and just removed a letter and called it a new card. Like, what? Like, that's. So when you commit a crime, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Only once per turn. That's bullshit. And as long as it has 4 or more +1/+1 counters as Menace and Lifelink, I think that's boring. That's a boring legend. Enters. Okay. Desperate Bloodseeker could be good. There's only so many ways to mill yourself in Pauper. So maybe, because it's basically just a bear with lifelink, and you can mill yourself too. Or you can mill your opponent too. That's not terrible. I'd like to see how that is. I like Lone Shark. When it enters, if you cast 2 or more spells, draw a card. It's not very good, but I like Lone Shark. That's funny. Lassoed by the Law, so it exiles a non-land permanent, and when it enters, create a 1/1 mercenary. I don't get that. Is it like, are mercenaries in this case supposed to be the law? Because I thought mercenaries were part of the bad guy crew. The what are they calling themselves? Outlaws. Because mercenaries are outlaws, but this creates an outlaw, but it doesn't exile the outlaw, right? So why are you creating a mercenary? It's exiling something else. I don't really get it. Fleeting Reaction gives something hexproof, untaps it, and it becomes a copy of another target creature. This could be really good. I think the fact that it doesn't have to be a target creature you control, you can make it something your opponent controls that's really strong, and that's just going to be solid. Caught in the Crossfire is a pretty cool removal spell. So it's either a 3 mana, deal 2 damage to each outlaw, 3 mana, deal damage to each non-outlaw. It's like Anger of the Gods, but worse, I guess. But I mean, it doesn't really have to be that good. I think it could definitely see draft play, but not much outside of that. Then again, it could be a mana, like a 4 mana, deal 2 damage to each creature, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. Visage Bandit enters as a copy of a creature you control, except it's a shapeshifter. So it's basically a 3 mana clone. That's not terrible. Or a 4 mana clone if you don't plot it. Wrangler of the Damned at the beginning of your end step. If you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, create a 2/2 white. This is pretty. That's not terrible. I could see this having draft play because creating a 2/2 spirit each turn is going to be pretty good. Bony Paul, Clear Cutter. That's Paul Bunyan. That's just Paul Bunyan. They made Paul Bunyan a card. So when it enters, create Bow, a legendary blue ox. With this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. When you attack, draw a card, then you may put a land from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. That's pretty. I think it's fun. I think it's a balanced commander. I hope to see that at a table near me, I guess. Aloe Alchemist. So when it becomes plotted, target creature gets +3/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. So it's a pump spell 1 turn and then a free 3/2 the next turn. This is like really. That's a solid rate. It's gonna be good in draft. At least the way I see it. I don't know. I saw this card when spoilers first started. And I really thought that plotted was gonna do more things like that, where you're gonna plot a creature one turn and it was gonna do something like maybe like you get some sort of ability like this, and uh then you get it for free on another turn. And I don't know, like it's an okay ability. It just feels like a better foretell, I guess. Granted, foretell is face down, so it is a bit different, but Thunder Lasso enters, attach it to a creature you control. The equipped creature gets +1/+1, and when it attacks target creature your opponent controls is tapped. So you can tap down things and I guess prevent them from blocking. That's kind of cool. Outcaster Greenblade. When it enters, search your library for a basic land or desert, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle, and it gets +1/+1 for each desert. I think deserts are a cool deck. I used to have the one desert commander that creates you, I think, like sand tokens equal to the number of deserts you control. And it was a fun little deck. I think that's kind of cool. Bruce Tall. So he's on Zendikar usually. I guess he's off of Zendikar. So Oxen have double strike. When it enters or attacks, exile the top card of your library. If it's an land, create a 2/2 Ox. Otherwise, you may cast it until the end of your turn. That's pretty cool. Oxen are generally a terrible type, but I think this is a fun gimmick deck if you play it like a gimmick deck. Stubborn Burrow Fiend. When it becomes saddled for the first time each turn, mill 2. Then it gets +2 or +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. That could be really strong. Almost, I'm thinking something kind of like Goyf, where Goyf gets power equal to the number of card types. I guess this is more like White of Precinct 6. But it's pretty cool, actually. Riku of Many Paths. Have we seen Riku before? The name sounds familiar. So whenever you cast a spell with multiple options, a modal spell, choose up to X, where X is the number of times you chose a mode for that spell. You can exile the top card of your library, play it till end of turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it, gains trample, or create a 1/1 bird. I think modal spells really aren't good enough for this to be too strong, but I don't know. Kellen joins up. When it enters, you may exile a non-land card with mana value or 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. When a legendary creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Oh, I think I saw. Okay, so the joins up, I believe, are going to be like. There were oaths that Planeswalkers did. There was like Oath of Teferi, which doubled up Planeswalker, like they could activate their abilities twice. There was Oath of Chandra, which I think when a Planeswalker entered dealt like 3 damage to something. So this is just going to be that for legendary creatures, and I don't like that. We had back in Dominaria United, there was what was his name? There was this bitch. All right, I hate this man so much. Legendary creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. Legendary creatures are meant to be stronger. You can only have one of each on the battlefield, right? No, it just became bullshit. All right, I hate playing Joda decks. Joda is just so bullshit. Oh, and when you cast a legendary from your hand, exile it until you exile a legendary with lesser value and cast it for free. So you like, it's a bullshit deck. I hate this deck so much. Like, why? Why? It's so annoying. And I can't even say it's broken. It's not like he has protection, but like, this deck is playing fucking Shalai. It's gonna give all the legends hexproof. And then what are you gonna do? Like, this deck just fucks you over. It's not fun. And you know where it's not especially fun? Historic Brawl, where it's a 1v1. Your opponent plays this turn 5 and the game is over. There's not shit you can do about it. So seeing that we're going to get more legendary support, I don't want that. Give Planeswalkers support. They're a terrible type in Commander. Alright? Like, you could choose anything else. You could choose artifact creatures. Sure, artifact creatures are still fine, but legendary creatures have so much support at this point. They count as historic, so they get effects for being historic. Like, you could have chosen sagas. You could have given sagas more support. You could have chosen any other cool card type, and you had to choose legendary creatures. All right, I hate it so much. So just seeing this, and this is just going to be a second free spell for you. I don't like this. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So you play a legendary creature with Joda out on the battlefield. You get a second legendary creature. So you put 2+2/+2 counters. Sorry, 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. And then all of your legends get another +2/+2 because of Joda. Like, it's just bullshit. I don't want to see this. I hate that. Lively Dirge. So it can be buried alive, which is cool. And it can return creatures to the battlefield. I like Lively Dirge. This is good. This is good uncommon design. I hate when uncommons could be commons. Because I think, yeah, this is too strong to be a common, but, like, it feels good. It feels like it's in a good place. Here we go. Longhorn Sharpshooter. I don't like that it costs more to plot it. I mean, it deals 2 damage to any target. That's fine. But ugh. Marchesa. So Queen Marchesa, classic character. People love her. People love the monarchy. This isn't part of the monarchy. So when you commit a crime, you may pay 1. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the other in your graveyard. This is good. I like that. I like you have to pay for it. Sometimes I'm not a fan of that, but this is a lot of card advantage. So having to pay for it is good. I think she should be a 3/3. I think a 3/4 is just a little bit overtuned. But it's fine. Roxanne Starfall Savant. So when she enters the battlefield or attacks, create an artifact. So she just creates Meteorite, the 5 cost card. Meteorite's a terrible card, but like, so she creates mana rocks that deal 2 damage to any target. And whenever you tap an artifact for mana, add. I don't like that. That's just it's a big mana red green deck. We've all seen big mana red green, but that's just annoying. She's like, meh. So your Soul Ring taps for 3. Like that's fine. It's just annoying. Like, why? I think that creating meteorites, like the card Meteorite, I think that's fun. I think that's a fun ability. Cut the second ability. Just don't do it. What's the like? I hate that so much. All your treasures are tapping for double. Like, ugh. Even Interrupter enters. You exile a spell and it becomes plotted. And spells your opponents cast from graveyards or exile it costs 2 more to cast. So your opponent just casts it on their next turn for 2. That's fine. I think it's a good enough like a not a counter effect. Just it slows down the game a little bit. Servant of the Stinger. When it deals combat damage to a player, if you've committed a crime, you may search your Huh? You may sacrifice it if you do search your Oh, so it's like a tutor. That's a cool uncommon design. I've mentioned this before. I like uncommon design that feel like they're doing something different. Like Thunder Lasso could be a common. Alright, it's just so basic. But like you look at things like Savant or Servant of the Stinger, it's a tutor on a creature when you deal damage after you've committed a crime. That's cool. Lively Dirge, it's a buried alive and it can bring you back creatures. That's cool. I think the fact that you can put 5 mana into Lively Dirge and pull out like a devoted druid and anointer or whatever, like an infinite mana combo for 5 mana. I think that's cool. I think that might actually be how it's used. But I just like seeing cards do something different. Archangel of the Tithes. If it's untapped, creatures can't attack you. Okay, it can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. Good. I like the whole and planeswalkers you control part, because I think planeswalkers need all the support they can get. However, being 3 white and the mana cost kind of hurts it. And then as long as it's attacking, creatures can't block unless they pay 1 for each of those creatures. It like counteracts swarm decks. It's fine. It's whatever. I don't see anything special. I think I'm gonna like speed up a little bit. Tomb Trawler, kind of basic. Contractor, kind of basic. Armadillo, kind of basic. Okay, so when Congregation Griff attacks while it's saddled, it gets plus X, where X is the amount of mounts you control. That's not really that great. At knife point, as long as it's your turn, Outlaws have first strike. That's cool. Whenever you commit a crime, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with tap, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what I don't get is why not just say the first time you commit a crime each turn? Just get rid of this ability triggers only once each turn. Just say when you commit the first crime each turn. Just something like that. It means the same thing, but I just get so pissed at this ability triggers only once each turn. Arid Archway, Return a Land. Um, that's not terrible. It's similar to the what's the ones? The bounce lands for the guilds. Like it's fine. Step Between Worlds, each player may shuffle. Here's what kills it. May. I hate the word may on cards like this because if you want to put this in Nekusar, your opponent just chooses, no, I'm not going to shuffle my hand in my deck. Um, May kills the card. That's how I see it. Rictus Robber. When it enters, if a creature died, create a 2/2. It's whatever. Running Coyote. Eartha Joe, Frontier Mentor. So it's another card from. I'm assuming she's from Zendikar. She looks like she's from Zendikar, and she's a core. So she creates a 1/1. That's fine. When you activate an ability that targets a creature or player, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. Okay, that's kind of cool. She could double up your pingers, like if you have like Fire Slinger. That's kind of cool. And she's an uncommon legend, so she can be used in PEDH. I really like that. I think that's cool. High Noon. Each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. Sacrifice High Noon, it deals 5 damage to any target. I guess I guess that's kind of how a duel works. I don't know. I kind of like the idea less of like a duel and more, I guess I'm more of like a bar fight person, where I want players to be like drawing cards and casting as many spells and having like the craziest turns possible. I think High Noon's kind of boring. Intimidation Campaign, when it enters, each opponent loses 1, you gain 1, and you draw a card. Whenever you commit a crime, you may turn it into. Okay, so it's repeatable card draw. I guess because it's repeatable, it has to be overpriced. It's fine. Marauding Sphinx. This could have been such a good card. This could have been so good. When you commit a crime, you surveil too. That's a great ability. And then they kill it with only ones each turn. Surveilling is strong, but surveilling isn't that strong. If DRC can surveil multiple times each turn, I think this is fine. Um, Bovine Intervention, destroy an artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 2/2 ox. So it doesn't exile, which is bad. But it's not terrible removal. A 2/2 ox really isn't that much. Lazav, Familiar Stranger, he looks like the Death Slinger from Dead by Daylight, and I fuck with that hard. When you commit a crime, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then you can exile a card from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled, you may have Lazav become a copy of that creature until end of turn. That's fine. Jolene, Plundering Pugilist. So she's from New Capenna. When you attack with one or more creatures with power 4 or greater, create a treasure token. Sacrifice a treasure, deals 1 damage to any target. The fact you have to already pay 2 mana on top of sacrificing a treasure really kills the ability. Form a Posse, creates X 1/1 red mercenary creature tokens. I'm just gonna. Like, we're not even gonna talk about how much better that is than Eiganjo Uprising. Because Eiganjo Uprising has the gall to give your opponents also that many samurai tokens for X. At least you're the only one creating mercenaries, alright? It's a not like it's okay. It's not like terrible. Like it's okay. It's center of the road. Plot the heist. So surveil 3. If you have no cards in hand, then draw 3 cards. That's kind of cool. You could plot it on turn 4, and then when you have no cards, immediately draw back up to 3. That's cool. Satoru the Infiltrator, sick ass art. When it enters and or one or more non-token creatures enter the battlefield under your control, if none of them were cast or no mana was spent to cast them, draw a card. That's cool, so you get to benefit off of plotting. Definitely not great, but pretty okay. Double down, whenever you cast an outlaw, copy it. This is like Necroduality. Pretty good. Assuming that assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks can actually like work together in a deck well. Rakish Crew, when it enters, you create a mercenary, and whenever an outlaw you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain 1 life. Let's go! Alright, this is what we're looking for. Do you see the words activate only once per turn? Do you see once per turn anywhere on this card? You don't. This is a good card. I like this. Alright? I think Outlaws are going to be great now. I think, greatest type combination ever. Transmutation font, looks Phyrexian. I'm going to be real. So you create your choice of a clue or food or blood and sacrifice 3 artifacts tokens with different names. Search your library for a artifact card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. For 5 mana, that is a little bit difficult, but if you're working with, like, is it not Gimli, from March of the Machines, it was one of the precon commanders that worked on creating clues, treasure, and food. If you get that down, and you're able to create those 3, and then you could just search for, Blight Steel, just ways to win the game each turn, that's not terrible. Trained Erranks, while it's saddled and attacks, it gets first strike and scry 1. That's not great. It's fine. It's a 3/1. It's not terrible. Ultec Matter Weaver. I think these cards might be for like the bonus sheets, like so whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 gnome, or create a token that's a copy of target artifact token you control. They're not bad. Like, okay abilities. When it enters, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target non-land permanent. Very strong. Though I do think you should give it exploit. I think this would be a lot better if it had the exploit keyword. Honest Rustine. So Rustine is from he was in what's it called? Innistrad. I don't know if I think it was Midnight Hunt. So when it enters, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's okay. I mean, it doesn't really do enough, but it could be seen as good in like a PDH strategy. Getting back creatures will never really be bad, and creature reducing cost is still pretty good. Key to the Vault. I ain't reading all that. Scorching Shot could be good removal, but I don't think it will. Revealing a mount or planes is okay. Like, it's fine. It's okay. Land searching for white. Armored Armadillo, I think, could be really fun in Pauper. Getting its toughness pumped up. Definitely, if you had some way to get infinite mana, it would be like super good. But I'm not really too sure about that. Rattleback Apothecary. So when you commit a crime, target creature you control gains your choice of menace or lifelink until end of turn. It's fine. At least it's not a once per turn. I think giving your creatures lifelink could be pretty valuable. Quilled Charger, like, it's okay. Saddle doesn't really seem too strong on a lot of these cards. Vile Smasher, Gleeful Grenadier. So when another outlaw enters under your control, it deals 1 damage to target opponent. I like this. I like this a lot. It's not a once per turn. That's good. It's consistent damage, and it's a 3/2 for 2. I think this could be a go-to for the Outlaw Commander. Yeah. Cactarantula. This is sick. So it costs 1 less if you control a desert. I don't think that's quite enough for it to be worth what it does. So drawing cards is good. However, you're going to be paying 5 for this at the very least. You're either going to be paying 6 or 5. If it was 1 less for each desert, this card would be really good. Colossal Rattleworm has flash as long as you control a desert. So it's a 4 mana 6/5. That's pretty good. You can exile it from your graveyard to search your library for a desert and put it on the battlefield tapped. This could see some like standard-ish play. Um, or if is Room no Ruminop Ruins isn't in modern anymore. Make your own luck. Definitely cool. What's that a reference to? Look at the top three cards of your library. Put a non-land card from among them. It becomes plotted. Put the rest into your hand. So you basically draw two, and then get to cast another card for free on your next turn. Very strong. Crom, Violent Cacophony. This is something Ludovic created. So when you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. I like that a lot. I think that's pretty solid. Could be a cool PDH deck. Final Showdown. So all creatures lose all abilities is a good ability. Choose a creature and give it indestructible is good, and destroying all creatures is good. Definitely paying 6 mana for a board wipe does hurt, so I don't see it having all that much play, but it could be fine. Torpor Orb, is this a reprint? I think this is just a reprint. Vaultborn Tyrant. When it or another creature with 4 greater enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life and draw a card. And if it dies, if it's not a token, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's an artifact. That's pretty cool. Unfortunate accident. Destroying a creature is okay. It's meh. It's a meh card. Hard Bristle Bandit. When you commit a crime, untap it. Being able to untap it only once per turn actually makes sense here, because you could take something like Sylvan Arc. Is it Sylvan Arcbow? One of the bow equipments where you just tap a creature to deal 1 damage, and then you basically equip it to Hard Bristle Bandit and then go infinite. So I understand why it's a once per turn here. Adding 1 mana of any color is pretty cool. Free Strider Lookout. When you commit a crime, look at the top 5. You can put a land from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I could kind of get why this is a once per turn, because you don't want them to ramp too fast. However, it does die to Bolt, so I just felt like saying that. Mobile Homestead has haste as long as you control a mount. When it attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it on the battlefield tapped. That's not terrible. It's an okay equipment, or not equipment, vehicle. However, wanting you to also control a mount, the mounts don't seem super good, so I don't know how I feel about that. Miriam Herd Whisper. As long as it's your turn, mounts and vehicles have hexproof. You're not really worried about them having hexproof on your turn as much as they are on other players' turns. So I don't know how I feel about that. But giving mounts and vehicles a +1/+1 counter whenever they attack is pretty good. So this could be an interesting deck to run. Are you fucking kidding me? I know they brought Nissa back, right? But Nissa, in the story, they did some sort of funky, weird magic to bring her back, and she was no longer a planeswalker, alright? We had that established. When she came back from being Phyrexian, she was no longer a planeswalker. The fuck is this bullshit? Alright? So 2 blue. So he's a blue. He's a 2-mana planeswalker. We know how that goes. Starts with 3 loyalty. You can't cast the spell during your first, second, or third turns. I love breaking the meta of the game like that. Like, what other card like talks about which turns you can play it? So you +1 to draw a card, discard a card. That's good. You can +1 to exile a non-land card with mana 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted, so you can cast it for free next turn. That's good. And then you can -6 until end of a turn whenever you cast a spell, copy it. So it's just a whole load of bullshit. Why is he back, anyway? What's the story here? Why isn't he a fucking cowboy? I mean, he kind of has, like, the fucking old, like, it looks like a mix of his looks. So, like, is this really Jace? Is this, like, his spark, like, trying to reform itself? Like, what the fuck is going on? And I don't really care enough at this point. I think that's bullshit. He should not be back. Oh, and Vraska's back, too. Okay, great. Vraska's back. We're just bringing back, like, they said there was a whole process to bringing Nissa back, alright? And I know Nahiri just woke up
or whatever. But, like, still, some characters need to stay dead in order for it to matter. It doesn't matter at this point. Geese of the Hellraiser. I like the pairing of skeletons and zombies together. I think I've seen a couple other cards do that. Um, and when you commit a crime, you create two. You create two when you commit a crime. That's good. I like this. I like this guess. This might be the best one. Let's just get to Vraska because nobody fucking stays dead at this point. So she's a 3-mana 3/3 death touch. Whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, you pay 1 to create a treasure that's a copy of it. So you basically just get free passive abilities and devoted. Why is she back? I don't like it. Like, it seems it's probably balanced. I don't care for it. Rakdos the Muscle. So it's a 5-mana 6/5 demon mercenary. So okay, so we've talked about Omen Paths a little bit and how they're opening, but Rakdos is a guild leader. Like, he's important. What's going on? And I'm not saying we should go back to Ravnica. We should not go back to Ravnica, but what is like, we were just there. We were just there. I guess we should have noticed that fucking Rakdos wasn't there, but like, just why? Like, what? There's a power vacuum. Who's filling the power vacuum? So as Flying Trample, whenever you sacrifice another creature, exile cards equal to its mana cost from the top of your library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those cards. I like that ability, actually. Because it's only when you sacrifice creatures, it's not, like, it's exploitable, but it's not as exploitable. And then, okay, ugh. So it has a sack ability on it to give it indestructible. However, it also taps it, and you can only activate once each turn. So I would say it's pretty balanced. The art's sick. I might pick this one up. Fucking Kellen's back. So if you don't know, Kellen's been in every set since, like, what was the new Eldraine set? So he's been in every set for the past couple months. When you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, he's had an adventure ability in most of the other sets, so I guess this also links to that. You may cast a permanent spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't, you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. It's just annoying value shit. I don't like that. Annie Flash the Veteran, when she enters, if you cast her, return target permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. When she becomes tapped, exile the top 2 cards of your library, and you may play those cards this turn. Kind of boring, honestly. Nothing really that special. Tiny Bones joins up. It's another one of those legendary creature bullshit. So when it enters, any number of players each discard a card. And then whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, any number of players each mill a card and lose a life. That's a little bit less annoying, but I still don't like it. The art's kind of sick, though. Great Train Heist. So you can untap all creatures you control and have another combat. I like additional combat, so that's cool. It can pump all your creatures or choose target opponent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to that player, create a treasure. So I like this card a lot. I think it's a cool way of showing off a train heist. It's, like, going after it, around, like, whatever. That's cool. Slick Show Off. Whenever you cast a non-creature, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Has flying and haste. This could be a really annoying modern card or standard card. And I don't want to think about it. The Gitrog Ravenous Ride. I guess it really, after Talia wrote it, I guess it's a bitch now. So, Trample Haste. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice a creature that saddled this turn. If you do, draw X, and then put up to X land cards from your hand onto the battlefield tapped, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. Just random, it's classic Gitrog value stuff. Magda, when you commit a crime, create a treasure token, activates only once this turn. Sacrifice 3 treasures, create a 4/4 Scorpion Dragon. She's okay. I mean, that's creating a dragon could be pretty good if you played a lot of treasures at least. So Vala, when you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 mercenary, choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each different. Oh, that's gross. Ew, and then you have the mercenaries to bump up powers. So if you have two 3/3s, you could use a mercenary to make one of them a 4/4 or a 4/3. So you'll be just creating more and more. Ew. I don't like that. That's gross. Are you fucking kidding me? So Vraska joins up. When it enters, put a death touch counter on each creature you control. For 2 mana, you gave all of your creatures death touch, and whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's so much. Cause like, sure, Jota's annoying as is, but giving everything death touch, just like why? Um, Loyal Steed, don't care. Getaway Glamour can exile a non-token creature and return it. Okay, so it's like a Cloud Shift and removal. It's fine. It's whatever. Insatiable Avarice is either it can be a tutor or a target player draws 3 and loses 3. This could be bad with Shieldred out. You could make your opponent draw 3 and lose 9 life total because of Shieldred. I could see that having some play in Modern for that. Badlands Revival, return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Return up to 1 target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. That's fine. It's whatever. It's okay, Revival. I mean, it's... Emergent Haunting. At the beginning of your end step, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand, it becomes a 3/3 spirit with flying. It's boring. Lava Spur Boots. So it's like a Swiftfoot Boots, but worse type deal. But it'll give them +1/+0, haste, and ward 1. So I think that's balanced. It's fine. I could see some play just for giving haste alone. Then we have lands. I believe that the 2 or fewer lands are also reprints. Then we have the gain 1 lands, which are of course reprints. Hell to Pay deals X damage to target creature. Create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the amount of excess damage. That's cool. Creating treasure is always going to be good. Like, it's fine. Duelist to the Mind, his power is equal to the number of cards you drew this turn. If you commit a crime, you can draw a card. If you do, discard a card. The fact the ability only triggers once each turn really kills this card. And that's all I'm going to say. Nexus of Becoming, at the beginning of combat on your turn, draw a card. Then you can exile a artifact or creature card from your hand. If you do, create a token that's a copy, except it's a 3/3 golem. That's pretty okay. I think it's whatever. Oko the Ringleader, he's a 4 mana. I thought we were only doing 1 Planeswalker per set, by the way. Forgot to mention that, Jace, because I knew Oko was in this set. Being sexy and a cowboy. I would invite Oko onto my Ram Ranch. But at the beginning of combat on your turn, Oko becomes a copy of up to 1 target creature you control, except it has hexproof. That's cool. I think that's, like, he's kind of doing what Gideon does, becoming a creature. But you can draw 2 cards, then you discard 1 if you've committed a crime, or 2 if you have not. You can create Elks, which is okay, and then for -5, you... for each other non-land permanent you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. It's not removing things. It's not gaining control of things. I think it's gonna be mostly in control. Tiny Bones, the Pickpocket. He's from, was he in Jumpstart? He was either in Jumpstart or Battle Bond. When he deals combat damage to a player, you can cast target non-land permanent from that player's graveyard. That's a pretty cool ability, casting your opponent's stuff, and it's a much nicer way than, like, Send Triplets, where Send Triplets just steals your opponent's stuff directly from the hand. At least Tiny Bones lets them, like, cast it first. Sword of Wealth and Power. I don't care. Swords should have stayed at 10. We had all 10 swords. We don't need this whole, oh, it's protection from instants and sorceries. I don't care. 10 swords. That's all we needed. We had a full cycle. It was perfect. They weren't all good. All right, I have a tier list on them. But like, it was fine. It was good as is, and they just have to go and ruin shit. Thilithip, Lost on the Range, Ward 2. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. The top card of your library has plot. The plot is equal to its mana cost, and you may plot non-land cards from the top of your library. That's cool. It's a cool ability. Like, it's fine. I think an interesting way would be to build it, well, not really interesting, but like take a whole bunch of one mana cantrips and just like plot them off the top of your library and just like continuously draw cards. Like it could be funky, it could be different. I like it. I like casting things from the top of my library, and that's it. Other than that, we just have the lands, which look pretty sick. I like the whole it. This is what a normal planes card would look like, but there's also the planes symbol in it. It's not like the constellations, which just kind of felt like a symbol. It's like you can like see it. I like that a lot. It's kind of more subtle ish. But that's it. That's Outlaws of Thunder Junction spoilers so far. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. MTG Man signing